You're listening to Growth Stories, and I'm your host, Ben Landers. In today's episode, I talked to Will Hallett and Wade Rusk, best friends and business partners. They run Penguin Air in Phoenix, Arizona. These guys are absolutely fantastic. We start the conversation talking about how they got into the industry, how they built their business, trials and tribulations, some of the things that they learned along the way, secrets to their success, relationships, building the best team, culture first. And then we talk about where they're going, what they're up to now. So if you're running a company and you're looking to learn and learn things that you can use to make it better, this is an episode you won't want to miss. So enjoy. Guys, welcome to Growth Stories. Thank you for joining me. And let's start with introductions. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves and your company?
Want to go first, Wade?
So Wade Rusk, and Will and I met at a large competitor in 2009, and about a year and a half later started Penguin Air. So in February 2011. And I tend to focus more on the back end, the administrative side, the financial side, and Will has always focused more on the front end. So lead generation, sales, stuff like that. We both have collectively always put a lot of emphasis and focus on marketing and branding this business right from the get-go. So
now was Penguin an existing business, or did you guys actually start it from zero?
From zero.
Fantastic.
So a little background on Wade and I, because it goes back a little further than that, and I'll just be real brief on that, Ben, is we both grew up here in Phoenix. He grew up on, if you know the valley here, there's the east side, west side. He grew up on the west side, grew up on the east side. We both were entrepreneurial.
West side!
We were both entrepreneurial as little kids even. I was slinging papers at 9, 10, and he was selling snakes and other things we can't go into. At a young age, in junior high, right, or elementary. So we always had that. We hated school, absolutely hated school, both of us. I think we were big daydreamers, just sitting there thinking, how can we make money and not sit in class all day? And, we both got into sales at a company here in Phoenix, a big competitor at the time. And they're not so much that anymore, right, Wade? Correct. And we met there and off we went. We left after 2 years and started Penguin in 2011. So we met in 2009, like you said. We were sales guys. We were comfort advisors. So, it's more background in, he can go into things like where he got into the HVAC industry back in the Marine Corps. But
it's interesting.
That story is pretty cool.
It's interesting to hear you guys talk about school and not liking school. I was not a big fan of school either. I don't think anyone who's entrepreneurial is really wired to sit there and follow the rules and go from class to class. But the thing that I find sort of tricky is, I got a 14-year-old son and a 12-year-old daughter, and they are not like my wife and I in terms of students. They get great grades, they pay attention, and they're not as I'm, ADD all over the place.
You do.
And so the question is how honest do you get with your kids when my son's like, Dad, were you good at math? And it's I'm running a digital marketing company. It's all about data. And, I'm business math. I'm great, but I was out.
I think that's a good point. I think the kids miss out on a lot of things. My dad was a CPA and had businesses, and he was teaching me how to balance a checkbook at 10, and the kids aren't getting that either today. They don't know what a checkbook is. So I think that entrepreneur to teach them those skills on top of the book skills in school, can't beat it, but it's very competitive today. It's a lot different than, you're 45, I'm 48, 47, actually. I'll be 48 this year, and Wade's 45. So.
But I think, Wade, I heard when you were in the Army, you were a refrigeration technician. Is that how you sort of got into the industry, basically?
Yeah, it was the Marines. I just followed my older brother's footsteps, and because I didn't want to go to college, I figured I didn't have the resources to anyway. But I went to his graduation and was inspired, and I was like, I'll go in. So I went in 4 months later, and I thought I was going to be a combat engineer. They made me a refrigeration technician. So it's not like I wanted to do air conditioning, but legit, my very first unit, I'm sitting there watching the clock, bored out of my mind. Okay, I'm wearing camouflage uniform, playing Marine on base, waiting for lunch. Like, this is horrible. I was like, this is not fun, man. This is boring. I'm watching the clock. It's terrible. I'm going to get out, do my 4 years, get out, start my own business. So I had a little journal with my company name on it. And that's what I did. In 1999, got out, started a small business. My last name, Rusk Refrigeration. Eventually made it Rusk Heating and Cooling or something like that. And I sold that in 2006, right before the recession. Got out of the industry altogether, tried a bunch of other stuff, and couldn't get excited about anything. And I learned you really should stick with what you know.
I remember going out to California to visit a client out there, and we met at Neptune's Net, which is like it's like a cafe, but it's right by like a great surf break. And I was asking this guy, how did you get into the industry? And he's like, he had come back from either the services or sort of a boondoggle, I can't remember which. And he's like, and I used to just drive up and down the PCH, and I would just see these guys get out of their HVAC and trades trucks, like plumbing and HVAC trucks, put on their wetsuits and then go surf like every day at lunch. And that's what motivated him to get into it. I'm like, seriously? He's like, yeah, at first it started that way. And then the business grows, and you realize like you're not in that middle section where you're in it and you're wearing 20 different hats. He's like, I was not surfing. I was getting fat and, working all the time.
Those were one-man operations probably, or something.
Yeah.
Or just working for somebody else and had some downtime, like they do a lot when, in between calls. But
so when you guys got started, so you met each other through working for that competitor. You didn't know each other prior to that?
No.
So I figured, I sold my company and I took 3 years to try to get into something else. Nothing else got me excited. So I decided to go back into the industry, that I had some resources. I knew people, I had options, and I took this outside sales position with these guys that just bought another company, and it seemed interesting, and they were getting leads like crazy, and they could keep me busy, and I could get a consistent paycheck. And I met Will because I jumped in a truck with him for the first day, and we rode around for 4 days together and got to know each other really well. And we're like best friends after that. And that was in 2009, I believe. And so that's how we met.
Interesting. You guys are really close, close in age, and then building the business together. When I started Blue Corona in 2007, 2008, and I always wanted to run my own business, but I was working for another company, and the guy who owned the other company was 18 years my senior. And, I told him when I went to work for him, my goal was to own my own business. And he had launched businesses kind of out of his business, like incubated them and launched them, where he provided some capital. And then whoever was running it was like the sweat equity. And I didn't come from money, so I kind of needed something like that. What I didn't realize or appreciate is, when I said I wanted to run my own business, I really wanted to run it with a partner in the business, kind of like you guys have. And so I had an advisor, like a mentor, and and I put in money and he put in more money. But it's, I remember there was like a loneliness to that 7 day a week, sort of grind in the early days. And you guys kind of had each other, but it's also kind of interesting. You guys still seem, the chemistry between you guys, I've watched a couple of your podcasts, and you guys seem to really get along. Whereas, with my original business partner, there was a little bit of combination of the age and then the fact that he was not in it, so when I would seek counsel and he would sort of provide, insight, there was always this feeling of like, you don't understand, you're not in here, with me.
Right.
And you guys were in it together. So I guess talk a little bit about, have you always gotten along so well? Do you ever have any like critical, had to go home for the night and like take a breather from each other?
I don't know. It's a marriage made in heaven, actually. It's unique. To business partners that are best friends and to make this work, we're complete opposites. We understand our roles. Always had to find those and change those, like hats have come off. In the beginning, I was out doing all the sales. Wade was running the office, and that grew quick. We got to 10 million pretty quickly. We got to 10 million within 5-6 years. And then we kind of went a little stagnant there, and we had to change some things. But besides that, I don't know, Wade, you and I have a trust factor that's like no other. And Wade's the one that pushed me into this. I would have never left this competitor because I had family running it. And that's how I got into it. And I give that credit to Wade. And he pushed me over the edge, and I love it. I love being in business with him. I love our employees. I love working with you guys. In fact, Ben, I should have joined you guys in 14, 15. I remember Wade and I were looking for a company, and we went with somebody else, but we could have joined you back then, and we've been super happy. So
Mike called me from Arizona when he first met you guys, Mike Wilson. And I think maybe you guys had hired that other vendor, and maybe also had parted ways with one of your marketing folks. And I remember Mike was kind of saying, like, these guys are fantastic. The business is fantastic. But their previous partner, and or sort of some things had happened where it was like, he was basically like, they're at a critical inflection point. And this is either going to be a home run, like business marriage, where we're going to become their partner and they'll be like a forever client, or, it could go off the rails, just because of how much, I don't remember even what had happened. Like the website, there was like, I don't remember whether the website was being held hostage, or there was, tracking, disconnects and all that kind of stuff. So we sort of love those, clients like you guys, where, there's an opportunity. I think for us, we're always like, when we look at our best clients, there really is this feeling of kind of like you guys have with each other. Like, we are partners, and like, we're not going to get everything right. We'll make mistakes here and there, but we own it. When we make a mistake, commit to making it right, doing whatever it takes. And, I think we've got that kind of culture all throughout the organization. But, every now and then you come across, a small business where, all they can see are the things that aren't going, exactly as they had imagined. And they have like no patience for, it takes some time to sort of dance together, and kind of, you guys said you're opposites, just sort of figuring out, like, the personalities. And, every now and then we'll assign an account manager to a client where, it's just, there's something about the personalities, it just doesn't quite click. And I think a lot of our people are similar at their core, like core values, but, they have different personalities. Like Alex Mosier, who's not an account manager anymore, but she was. Alex Mosier is like sunshine and rainbows 24/7. And I had one guy in the DC area who was very gruff, who called me and said, I can't take this. Like, she is happy every single day. Like, it's like not human, and it drives me nuts. And I was like, are you really complaining that, sort of your customer interface is like too happy all the time? And he's like, yeah, it drives me nuts. Like, she never has a bad day, and I have bad days all the time, and I need to like vent that out. And, and I was like, well, if you live long enough, you see everything, So I guess, you had mentioned, Will, that you got to 10 million pretty quickly, and then, sort of either stalled or had some issues and had to make some changes. Talk about that. What types of changes and what was going on at that time?
Well, we hovered around 12, 13 million for about 3 years. And we just couldn't break through. And then we actually brought you guys on. We had grown to a point where we were growing 30, 40% every year. And we thought we'd continue that. I think people need to realize in this industry that 10 to 15 window, it's not that easy, because your overhead climbs, you have management, you need more trucks, you need everything. So everything kind of came to a halt. We tried to do some things outside of Phoenix, which wasn't smart. Live and learn from that. Another market, couple of markets. That's kind of where we had to enter the company and scale back and really start back where our core value, where we started this in our core is, with our people, really cut the fat. Wade can talk about that. He did a really good job with that with his team. So on the expense side, and then also bringing up our GPs and, when we were selling back in the day, Wade and I, it was $7,000 average tickets. We were hovering around 3 million each back then. That's a lot, but now it's like, you got to raise your prices. We started doing that, raising our prices across the board. Is there anything else I'm missing, Wade?
No, but I think you got to remember, we're not just air conditioning. So Will's talking about air conditioning units. We started as an air conditioning company. Some of the milestones that, we accomplished on the way is adding plumbing,
Mm.
which was a challenge, and we almost gave up on it. But I'm glad we didn't, because plumbing is why we're growing 69% right now, because they have an opposite season of air conditioning and they're just killing it. And then another milestone was when we added electrical, and electrical's been fantastic because, as you guys know over there, like, there's an unlimited amount of leads online for us in this market for electrical leads. There's no competition really.
It's kind of interesting that you went plumbing, you added plumbing first and then electrical. We have a lot of HVAC clients that go electrical, then plumbing, because they're already doing a little bit of electrical work, and so they'll maybe buy a one-man show electrical contractor and then sort of build a practice around that person. But you went plumbing and then electrical?
It just seemed to help with the off season.
Smooth out the season. Yeah.
Sure, because that would kill us. The fall was painful.
And how did you go about adding plumbing? Did you do it through like an acqui-hire where you just hired someone who really knew what they were doing? Did you buy a small business or something altogether different?
No mistakes.
We love falling on our face. Like, that's why we're as ugly as we are, both of us. We've fallen on our face a number of times. My God, like, we hired some young guy to go get the license for us as a qualifying party, and he was the worst guy in the world. We probably should have hired. And same thing with the air conditioning guy in the beginning. And we relied on him to give us all the answers for plumbing. It's just because you know air conditioning doesn't mean you know how to run a plumbing business. Two totally different animals. I don't know, like in your business, that might be like, just because you're good with organic doesn't mean you're amazing at AdWords or PPC or whatever.
And I think web design versus the services in our world, running a web design shop where it's, typically more projects, versus the marketing services. And then on the websites, you have to deal with sort of the brand and differentiating with design and, usability, not just SEO. So we learned the hard way there.
Sure. And so, yeah. And then I got to share this story. We almost gave up on plumbing, and then we were like, oh, we got to get into drains. That's where the money's at. Like Will's talking about selling air conditioners. Well, drains are the big jobs that are profitable. And, but they're few and far between. Like, you can't really advertise for those digitally online or anything. And, you don't want to do it unethically, like a lot of companies will, where they're just like, if I'm at your house because you had a plugged sink or bathroom or toilet, you need a new drain. It's just, I'm going to put a shovel in your ground, you need a new drain. A lot of guys do that, and we wouldn't do that. But we hired some guys who knew the drain game, if you will. And they came over as a group and decimated our plumbing business. Yeah, they had some sales, but they were doing it unethically. And we ended up giving all that money back to the homeowners. They were stealing money from us because they had a guy inside that was inflating commissions and doing this. And it was this whole Ponzi scheme. It was just frustrating. And I don't see Will get angry very often. If anything, I'm Will's bodyguard. And Will almost got into a fist fight with this guy in the call center in the middle of everybody. I wasn't here to see it, but I heard about it. I was like, yeah, all right, Will. And, but man, these guys just hurt our reputation, hurt our business, and just crushed our little dream of having a plumbing department, because we basically got rid of everybody, started over.
Yeah.
Got the one right manager who we have now, who we've been after for years. And he said, I won't come over as long as those guys are working there. Once we got rid of them, he finally came on and turned this department around. So, as you know, it's who it's hiring the right people, and makes life so much easier. But hiring the right people isn't always that easy.
No, in fact, last month, January, was our first month we outdid HVAC. Plumbing outdid HVAC last month. So that was a big milestone for us. So
that's awesome.
Heading in the right direction there.
Yeah, it's awesome. The, with, you mentioned, like, when you get to that $10 to $15 million market, I'm always amazed how many similarities are between our businesses. I mean, on the one hand, they're completely different. We don't have trucks, we don't have the equipment, and sort of dealing with even just from an accounting perspective, dealing with inventory and all that kind of stuff. We don't have any of that, but we have the people aspect of the business, I think is very similar. And then also the things that happen when you start to get to 10 to 15 million, like you mentioned, some of the things that you have to do. And in our world, having to start looking at the underlying technology and making these bigger bets or bigger investments, was super challenging, for us. Instead of like being reactive with everything, you get to that $10 million mark and you really have to start looking out and saying, what are the investments we're gonna have to make over the next 18 months
to be able to provide a service,
yeah
a quality
yeah
service.
yeah. On the technology, the hardest thing for us was, we had some technologists in-house, but no one who was like the guy that we have now, Dinesh. And I'm going to a partner who's outside of the business, who's 18 years my senior, a little bit of a know-it-all because he's older and just had more experience, and telling him, hey, we're going to have to spend, $1.5 million, rebuilding our platform, and he would hear that and say, nah, that you don't need to do that. And, and so, yeah, I think, there were some big, sort of these pinch points that happened in our business. And then it really came down to getting, the absolute, the right person to put in charge of, because when Dinesh did an evaluation of our technology, I had him make the presentation of recommendations to myself, my original business partner, sort of our executive team. And it was like, we were all sitting there going like, we need to do it. It's a big investment, but we need to do it. And he's the guy to oversee it. So all about having the right person. We went through a couple different software engineers where, Wade, it sounds a little bit like your situation. They weren't stealing from us per se, but one day I came into the office and this guy that we had, who was a software engineer, had taken his pants off in the office. He's in flannel pajama pants, but with a fly, so he's like basically in like boxers, flannel, like boxer pants. He's got the NCAA tournament up on one monitor. He's got chess on the other monitor. And so I said to him, what are you doing? Like, A, wear your pants, and B, like you're supposed to be working. He goes, I am working, but today's a thinking day. I said, a thinking day. So he minimizes chess, and he had written this script, this macro, that's basically copying this huge database and sort of reformatting it and pasting it into a new database. So it's like running on autopilot. And he's like, I am working. And it's like, come in my office. We need to talk, and put your pants on before we walk through the rest of the office. Wow. It was crazy. But, the problem with those folks, and I'm sure the same is true to some degree in your industry, is like software engineers, it's like they can fall out of bed and they've got 5, people who want to hire them for more than we can afford to pay. So handling people like that, the way you want to handle them is like, you're out, brother. But there's like sort of this element of like, all the business books saying when there's not a culture fit, you get rid of them immediately. There's like that with like, all right, I get it. If you want to sell business books, make your point and be very like black and white about it. But I'm trying to run the company, and this guy's the only guy that can do what we need him to do. So
you don't have them lined up at the door. You don't have
No.
quality candidates lined up at the door. And we're, gosh, I think that's probably been a milestone for us too, is as we got profitable, stopped chasing the top line, started putting more emphasis on the bottom line, which meant increasing our pricing, providing a service worthy of that price. And then we could provide better benefits. And we started being able to, like, we didn't have to chase people anymore. Like, there was a lot of word of mouth. I mean, we have 100 employees almost. And so the word of mouth internally is probably the greatest source.
Mm-hmm. You guys mentioned in one of your podcasts, you mentioned sort of culture first mentality. And I guess as you think back, were you really deliberate with the culture from day one, or did you start to really kind of emphasize that as the company grew? And how have you evolved your, sort of how you handle culture? Because with 100 employees, I mean, your people, I've heard you guys talk about your people. I know your team is awesome. And the culture sustains that. So I guess talk a little bit about how you think about culture and how your thinking on culture has changed as you've grown,
I
if at
think
all.
Wade and I have really enjoyed wearing the culture hat. I think from the beginning, I mean, we came from a company that culture was okay, but we really wanted to enhance that culture. We're fun guys. We enjoy being around our employees, and we're the face of the business. They enjoy seeing us, so I think culture's always been important to us. I don't think we really talked about it until a few years ago, though, really, to the employees, how important that was. I mean, we've always done breakfasts, and we'll do fun Christmas parties, and we do a lot of cool stuff around the office. We have a nice break room, like it's like a digital company break room, there's snacks in there, and there's all sorts of different things. We have a beer on tap in there. So, but yeah, culture's always been
Nobody takes
big
advantage.
with us. Nobody takes advantage
Like
of it.
how-
That's right. It just sits there, it gets all bad. But we've always talked about the employee winning first, because if your employees win, your customers will win. It's easy formula. The old adage of your customer's always right, blah, 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 we don't believe in. I mean, you're going to take care of the customer if your employees are taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
Something I have to add real quick, and anybody I think would back me up on this. Will and I, from the beginning, never had egos. We never had egos. We were never like, I do this, I do that, I do this, I do that, therefore you should, and we never we're like desk fist pounders or whatever, we always treated our people like equals. Even the call center today will be like, I love you guys because you come out and treat me like an equal and you just come talk to me and stuff. It's like Will and I have never, I think we get personal enjoyment out of being part of a family environment almost versus people doing stuff for us. We get enjoyment out of seeing people succeed and grow in the business. And we always had open door policy too. Sounds cliche, but we always have. I feel bad when I see a new employee. I don't know. Oh man, how long has he been with us? Well, it's because he never comes in the office maybe. And I just didn't know that, but it's embarrassing, right? Like those are the kind of guys we are. And so.
What do you attribute that to, Wade? I mean, I remember my business partner went to Duke, fancy private college on the East Coast. Then he went to Harvard Business School, worked at a bunch of big companies, and then he started a small local company. And the thing that I always loved about him, like he never said he went to these fancy schools, never like he wore a baseball hat, like his main company t-shirt, khaki shorts, no belt, he was like very casual. And he was the same dude. Like I'd be flying on a plane with him. We went to Utah to go mountain biking, and he's chatting up the, one of the stewardess, just where you from, how long you worked here for. He's like a normal dude. And so there was never this like boss owner, like authoritarian, and then like party guy, he was like the same guy in every aspect of his life. And I was like, and that's kind of how I am. And, but what do you guys attribute that to? I mean, you said those are the types of guys you are. Do you go back to like the way you were raised? What do you, cause I don't know where I got that way, but I'm the same way. We kind of do the servant leadership, model. If you had to name it.
It's where I come from. I think as a kid, hard workers. I had businesses as a real young kid, as Will said earlier. Like I was a member of a herpetological club, and I was breeding snakes and selling snakes at 13, maybe 12, I don't know. And I had other little businesses, but I always wanted to be independent, and I got excited to just sell stuff and watch my bank account grow, I guess. I don't know. But my dad worked 3-4 jobs, and my grandfather was a hard worker. He had his own businesses, but was a World War II vet. And I worked very hard. I was a hard worker, and I was a technician. I got out of the military, started my own business, and I was doing everything. So I've been there where these guys are, and I didn't like people mistreating me. I remember my very first job after the Marine Corps, my very first air conditioning job, get $14 an hour, probably driving this beat up Astro van. And the boss was at Applebee's drinking his Brutus beers or whatever all day, every day, those big tall ones. Sounds delicious right now. But at the time, I'm like using my own credit card. I have no money. I'm using my card for gas. And then he'd be like, I'll reimburse you when I get around to it.
Yeah.
And so I remember I'm at a job and he pulls up at the job. And I'm like, hey, boss, can I please get some money for the money I've been spending on gas? He looks at me. He's sitting in the driver's seat and I'm up at the window. He was a scary guy. And he like just rolls the window up on me and stares at me.
You're like, I don't want to be that guy.
And I knew that I didn't want to be that guy. And then I went to another company where the owner was just a con artist, scammer, took from the employees, took from the customers, took from everybody. I knew I didn't want to be that guy. And I did pick up some good stuff at the company where Will and I met. They treated everybody pretty well, but I do feel like as they grew and got bigger, that went away. So I knew we didn't want it to go away as we got bigger. And Will, same thing. I mean, I'll let you.
No, I think you learn from your experiences as an employee of what you don't want to be like as an owner. And Wade's right. And we're relationship guys. We always have been. Like we'll talk about this group that we joined here later on, but that's what we want to do. We just want to help the group and employees and just be relational in everything we do. We're good business guys. I mean, we know our numbers, we know our KPIs, we know everything, and we're always looking to learn. But I think relationships are the biggest piece in the business.
I'm always, I don't know what the right word is, curious, dumbfounded, where I feel like so much of building a successful business is just, sort of this common sense stuff. Although, and it's like, and it's simple stuff, like it's simple stuff to treat people how you want to be treated, to take good care of your people, to be sensitive to like, I mean, what it's like, again, to be a technician on a tough day and sort of that kind of thing. And, but, as you grow and you're more successful, without that humility, it's like easy to stop doing. Like as you grow, you have to do some things differently to get to the next level. But there's like a whole rack of things that can never stop, or everything starts to degrade. And I think, what it sounds like you guys have this mastered. And I hope that we have it mastered at Blue Corona, which is like, we have this cadence of just, we're always working on the basics. It's like, raising kids or something, it just never stops. And I always like joke around with the executive team, which is like, it's simple, but we can never get complacent because the problem is you stop doing it and it seems like everything's fine, and it's like, I don't know, that reminds me of like my diet during the holidays, it's like I'm drinking a little bit more, I'm eating crap, and I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. My weight's same. And then it's like mid-January, I'm like, uh-oh. And then by the time you notice there's a problem, you can't just, course correct immediately. So sounds like you guys have really got, are humble and sort of sensitive to that, within your business. I think, Will, you had said that you were always practicing sort of the culture, but only started sort of talking about it more recently. I think once you get to a certain size, you have to start, sort of casting sort of the culture and the vision, because the group is so big. Like Wade, to your point, you're not going to know everyone like you did when it was like 25 people. Or if you do know everyone, it's like your entire life, it would be just going out with the team 24/7.
Yeah.
Will and I tried that. Will and I tried crazy things. We had our HR gal telling us, putting on our calendar everybody's birthdays, everybody's anniversaries. And we were calling them. Hey, it's Wade and Will. Just want to let you know happy birthday. And they're probably like, this is awkward. Why would you do that to me? But we thought that was cool. But I think we got away from that. It just was a lot. It was like,
yeah,
to call 3 people today, Will. I'm like,
Happy anniversary.
thanks.
So now
It
we just
starts
do
to
it.
become
Now we
too,
just have a monthly meeting and we just hand out awards. Wade and I do.
We do a little differently now, but yeah.
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 We still acknowledge that stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's really where our focus is today, is maintaining the culture and
Vision. Yeah.
having fun.
Have you
Got-
guys ever used, people call it different things. Like I think we called it an operating system. We in 2018, that's when I hired Mike. And Mike was coming from a bigger company. All my original sort of executive team, leadership team, management team, whatever you want to call them. We're not big on titles, but the original team were sort of original employees that had like grown up in the business. So, it's like me not really knowing what I was doing, and a bunch of other people that, had kind of learned through me, which has a lot of, it's problematic. And then I brought Mike in, and Mike had a lot of experience. And first meeting that Mike came to, kind of executive meeting, I just knew like my little hodgepodge system was not going to, he's like a bear, he was asking questions off, out of sequence, put me on the spot with stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is a nightmare. And so we looked at EOS, the entrepreneurial operating system. There's a book called Traction that, we read and sort of liked. We didn't like all of it, but we liked a lot of it. And so we started to adopt, sort of some of that, in terms of like meeting cadence and goal setting and stuff like that. You guys do anything like that, even if it's not a named thing, something that you kind of bootstrapped or built internally? Or
I know exactly what book you're talking about. I remember the EOS thing. I think Will and I and Tracy probably was the one telling us about that. Tracy's big on the EOS system. No, we never implemented anything like that, to be honest. And I see the benefit in that.
I think we just took some, go ahead.
I don't really have a lot to say to that. I think it's a great system. I wish we had, and it might be a next level thing that we should look at, but
well, just to be clear, we didn't, I think, like one of the mistakes that I used to make was, I'm very action oriented. And so we would have an issue and I would be sort of like brainstorming in a very domineering fashion, so all these ways that we're going to address the issue. And when Mike came in, he hears me sort of asking people where things stand with these different kind of to-dos and projects. And Mike would say, like, what are we trying to accomplish, with that? And I would say what I thought we were trying to accomplish. And he would say, no, that's like a symptom. Like, what are you trying to accomplish? It was really, and we had a side conversation where I'm like, hey, I want to learn from you. I appreciate what you're doing. Like, help me think through this, because doing it like live in front of the team is not the greatest concept, for me.
cool.
Yeah. And Mike was, he was great then. And he sort of explained that, his previous CEO, was all about just getting absolutely clear about the what, what are we trying to achieve? And he goes, and the mistake everyone makes is they come up with the how and think it's the what. Like, we need to generate more leads. Well, why? Because we want to grow, sales. Why? And you just keep digging deeper. And EOS, all it really did in one sense was like, we took one part of the meeting structure that they use to like make sure that we're getting to the, to the root before we start brainstorming, how we might fix it. So we didn't adopt the whole thing hook, line, and sinker. And it sounds like you guys, you guys have grown probably bigger than we are. So whatever you're doing, is working. Just interesting.
You guys.
Yeah, it's all about you.
All it took.
I appreciate that. I wish it were just that, but yeah.
You guys have been great. I'm gonna give you kudos, because all your employees have been phenomenal. I love the energy, the positive nature. Like you said, I think you said it was Alex that has that Sunshine or whatever. Just call her Sunshine, whatever. They've all been great. Mike, man, a ball of energy, that guy. But they're all fun and positive, and but produces results too. And it seemed like you guys really care. The only company, that was the thing, was, gosh, we went from the largest company in the beginning, Gannett, to one-man operation out of his garage to everything in between. And we were just going backwards further every year backwards because they all wanted a new website. They all wanted to start from scratch, but we're paying for SEO, seeing no results, not knowing what we're spending our money on. For all we know, it's going into their, drinking habit or whatever. Like, we just had no idea. And we found up until we met you guys that most of these guys would tell in the middle of the month, they'd be like, we need more money to accomplish what we wanted to accomplish. We need more money. We need more money. We need more money. Like, well, how's that going to happen? Like, so you're just telling me that we're screwed if we don't give you twice the budget we already agreed to get the same results we agreed to?
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
And, until we met you guys, that was just a constant struggle. So yeah, like you said in the beginning of this, this is going to be a make or break thing. Like, I don't think we're unrealistic in our expectations, but we have some serious expectations because we can't afford to screw up again. Like, we were in 2019, like we almost went out of business.
Just from a cash flow standpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just spent way too much money. Now we're spending considerably less and getting way better results, more leads.
Yeah.
That was in 18, we were doing that, but I'm saying it hurt us in 19.
Yeah.
We had to crawl out of that. And so
I learned early on, I really sort of learned business through building our business, but my partner was always, he was always just laser focused on cash. And, when we'd have good net income in the P&L and the monthly P&L, he would say, just recognize, like, that's sort of a promise. You're paying paychecks, you're paying rent, that's money's going out the door immediately. And you got to collect the money that's in that income statement. So don't get all excited and go out and, buy something fancy, because when we were growing, we were like you guys, we were growing 30% plus year over year. And, we were just having to hire people constantly, and we're outgrowing the office space. And I would watch competitors, get these super fancy offices, like in kind of like the hip urban, Bethesda, Maryland, where it's like $60 a square foot, and then their employees are like, oh, you're going to pay for the metro, or you're going to pay for my monthly parking, I can't get here. And it's like, and those guys, I got to retain my talent. And so, they're just pouring money in thinking, oh, the business is growing so quick, it'll be fine. And, I kind of saw through my partner that it's easy to get out over your skis. And then, once you're flailing, that's like unless you're rich, the only thing you can't do running a business, you can make every mistake in the book, but you cannot run out of cash, and you can't F up your reputation and cash. It's like, if you just keep those two things intact, you can make all sorts of bonehead mistakes. I've made most of them over the years.
And I think both of our industries talk about them being similar as well. Your client has to trust you. There's got to be a level of trust. And you guys have earned our trust. And even through all the, bad companies we were with before and the mistakes we made, but same with us, our customers have to trust that we're being honest with them, and you need a new ECU unit, or you need a plumbing line under the ground they don't see or anything.
It's very similar. There's so many contractors that, you talked about folks you've run into over the years where it's, it might as well be like kind of a scam in marketing. It's like marketing, financial services, and contractors. It's like the great ones suffer from all the scammers.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like, and it's frustrating if you're one of the people that you think is kind of taking the high road. It's tough. And you understand why the small business owner, big business owner, why they distrust you, because you know your industry and how screwed up people are.
Yeah, we apologize for the industry all the time. We apologize all the time.
Well, you don't see these digital companies or ad agencies or whatever advertised on the news, but you see air conditioning companies, 3 on your side, whatever it is. Like, you see these all the time. This company out in Florida that was, the FBI was banging down his door because he was doing fraudulent plumbing stuff, and that stuff happens all the time. And so, yeah, that's a battle that we have to fight. And
talk about, just sort of transition. Talk about, I know there are a lot of people that have helped us get to where we are as a business. I mean, clients like you guys, and, again, my original business partner, no chance I would be anywhere, close to where we are. And then, I've had mentors, sort of, they don't know that they're mentors, but, people either within the industry or just in business in general that have really helped me. I guess talk about some of the people, that have influenced you guys or that have helped you, or friends, in the industry, and like a equivalent of yourselves on the East Coast, or someone that you have relied on to get to where you are.
You want to go first, Wade? Or you?
You go first. I have to think about that one a little bit.
Okay, so with 20 years experience, there's a lot of people that have helped us along the way. I was fortunate to be, that company we were with was George Brazil. George Brazil was basically the godfather of home services back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. He started Contractors 2000, which became Nexstar. I picked his brain a ton when I worked for him. And he gave me little nuggets here and there. If I ever was I would kind of always wanted to start my own business. So I'd ask him questions how he did it, right? He was a big influence, even though he passed away in 2012. I've had family in the business that got me in the business. Just a little bit about my story. I was pre-dental and I was trying to do school that I hated, right? I had a lot of doctors in the family and they said, become a dentist. And well, I married a gal and her brother was in the trades and he got me into the trades. So best thing ever did. We're biased about the trades. Wade and I love the trades, but there's the trades and then there's home services. Trades plus to me. Like home services, there's nothing that beats it in the trades, because if you want to help people and be in 3 or 5 different homes a day and you're like a franchise of the business, right? That's where you want to be in the trades, is home services. And it depends on you and how much you want to grow and how much money you want to make. You can make a ton of money in this industry. So those people helped me out along the way. And then other owners. Wade and I visited a lot of companies along the way. We joined Nexstar in 2016. Our GM, who we had not mentioned, has been phenomenal in helping us grow. He's kind of like the third piece of this. He took on Nexstar and has just really expanded our business and what we do with processes and systems through Nexstar, with the training and with one-on-ones and KPI reports, all the above. So I think he has a big piece in this. He teaches us a lot, actually, because of how much he's learned through Nexstar. And then Wade, of course, Wade on my side, like Wade's taught me a lot about the financials. That's about it for me.
That's awesome.
And for me, honestly, like I don't have anybody that totally stands out. Like I figured a lot of this out. I have to say my old bosses, that those couple of companies I had before doing my own thing, thanks to them for being such shitty business owners, because that's what forced my hand. And then Will, my business partner, my God, like I didn't want to do it by myself either. I did my first one by myself and that was lonely and it was a real struggle and nobody cared. I had employees coming and goes revolving door. And I had to be there at 7 a.m. because who knows if the girl that answers the phone would show up, and I had to be there late because who knows what was going to happen. So as I don't do it alone again. And Jay was our GM. Jay was one of my employees at my first business. He was 19 years old. And that kid's been instrumental to this success of this business. I mean, he is just he's got leadership accolades in elementary school, high school, college, actually. It's crazy. And he's just phenomenal and great work ethic. His parents had a small AC business in Wilcox, Arizona, way south. But at the end of the day, I think the greatest asset, this may or may not answer your question, but the greatest asset has been our partnership, Will and I. And he and I were talking about that just the other day. It wasn't us being super smart or driven or anything else. Like we were accountable to each other. We enjoyed each other. We are best friends and business partners. And that is so hard to come by, I think. And it's made it fun. And again, we're accountable to each other. I wouldn't want to let him down. He doesn't want to let me down.
You guys almost remind me, this is maybe taking it to an extreme, but I don't know if you've ever listened to this, but someone some investment firm has recorded every Berkshire Hathaway annual meeting going all the way back to like 1985, maybe, and turn it into like a podcast. I mean, it's not a podcast, they're just recordings, but they're on, Apple and Spotify and all that stuff. And it really is just 4 hours of Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger answering Q&A from shareholders. And the best part about it is it's like history, business. I mean, you learn about business, but then like you can go back and listen to like 2006, 2007, right? Just before the 2008 crash, and kind of hear what they're talking about. Now you know what's already happened. But I say that about you guys because Buffett and Munger are like, you can just tell the way they talk with each other. Like they're best friends. They are complete opposites. Like Warren will talk for, and I'm not saying you guys are like this in this regard, but Warren will talk for like a half hour, and give it like example after example. And then he'll pass it to Charlie and say, Charlie, do you have anything to add? And Charlie will say one sentence that's like half like pointed, just cuts right to the core of it. They're fantastic. If you've never listened to those, I'll send you one. But when you listen to their rapport, and those dudes are like 100 years old. So like, look at you guys, you're halfway, a little bit less than halfway there. Could be the future.
Yeah, I know. And with some of the recent events in our business and stuff, I'm like, Will, no matter what happens, we got to do it together.
Got each other. Yeah. Well, so what are you guys working on? Are you working on anything big right now? What's your focus for 2022? And how can people learn more about the business, or what's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they want to?
So what we're working on now, we partnered up, if you will, with the Any Hour Group, which is a big home services business out of Utah. And the private equity company bought us. And we were nervous about this. Everybody talked about it, but that's where the industry is going. There's so many big players buying everybody up, just like they've done with dentist offices, salons, fast food, everything else. Private equity is really buying everybody up. And we were like, well, if we don't do this, we could get left behind and trying to compete with big marketing budgets and stuff in town. And that's going to be a struggle. So we have done that as of just before Christmas. We sold, but we're still going to be around for years to come. We reinvested. We're still CEOs of this business, co-founders, operators, and we're seeing a lot of cool changes, a lot of great resources we have access to, from recruiting tools, the best training ever, fleet, better buying power on all of our vendors across the board, from trucks to uniforms to fuel, you name it, IT stuff. It's just software. But they've been so hands off and let us do it the way we want to do it in regards to maintaining a relationship with you guys, maintaining relationships with other vendors. They want to keep every one of our employees because they're like, we can't do it without them. Labor's hard enough to come by as it is. We want to just, have better benefits for the employees. Sure. So we can get more.
I think for the, for any of the smaller contractors out there listening, I mean, if someone has sort of grown up in the home services space or in the trades, what's happening in the home service industry may seem, sort of like a new thing, but it's of course happened throughout the years through different industries, and kind of exactly what you were describing, Wade. I mean, companies grow to a particular size, and where the economy is right now. I mean, money is cheap, and yield, finding investments that will actually earn you money on your capital are hard to find. And there are just thousands of great businesses in the digital marketing space, in the home services space, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of those businesses have grown to a certain point where, could you keep growing bootstrapped, sort of on your own with your own investment? Sure, you can, but someone who's like a financial expert who can also help you in some of the other sort of support categories can help you get to where you want to go, better, faster, serve your customers better. So I think it's not, and finding the right group is key. And that's your job as a business owner, to find one that has the right, matches your vision. And it sounds like you guys have done that. So that's awesome.
Yeah, our vision is,
Yeah.
is to
Gotta
keep
add,
going.
real quick, Will, I gotta add that since you brought that up, Ben. It is not always about that number up front. We've had guys that were gonna offer us more money, but there wasn't as much upside and it wasn't as good of a fit. And that is so critical because I've heard horror stories too. You know, they tell you they're not going to change your business, but they come in and they start changing everything up. And next thing you know, you have your whole plumbing department walks out on you. And you're like, wow, okay, that's awesome. Now what? I have to get back into the trenches.
Yeah.
So it's very important. So go ahead, Will.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, growth. Wade and I have always wanted to keep growing. And like you said, it's getting very competitive. Phoenix is a very competitive market. There's some big players here. And if you're not growing, you're dying in our eyes. You know, that's a saying that we've learned in some books, all of us. So to be able to provide that for our employees and our customers, you know, we wanted to partner up with somebody, and it is a cultural fit. They have the same vision, they have the same values as us. It's in our group. If anybody wants to research them, you reach out to Wade and I. Our emails are very simple. It's wade@penguinair.com or will@penguinair.com. We'll be glad to talk to you about what that looks like and how you can get there. Because Wade and I are very excited about what the future is going to bring in this industry. And I think that we can provide a lot of insight on that for some of your customers, Ben.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know there are a lot of, I talked to a lot of customers. There's a lot of folks that, they're sort of that's all new, to them and what direction they should go in. And it's hard to have a good sounding board. And I think, talking to guys like you guys who've been through it, it's invaluable. So if you own a company and you're thinking about what are the different options to grow your business, is it time to partner with another firm, looking at acquisitions, that kind of thing, really encourage you guys to reach out to Will and or Wade, and just get perspective. So that's what I've done over the years, just call people up and ask them to bend their ear. And you guys mentioned earlier that you're relationship guys. I'm the same way. I'm always shocked that, I've picked up the phone and called some people that I just thought, at first I thought, this person never going to take my call. And then I end up talking to them and I say, I'm just out of curiosity, like how many people like me reach out to people like you? Like, no one ever calls. They always think I'm too busy. I always thought it's like that contrarian, just, it's like making
that's what the hot girls say about,
that's
dates, because
That's
they
what I was gonna say.
nobody calls the hot girl.
Yeah.
They're afraid to call her.
That's what I was going to say. As a matter of fact,
Life favors the bold.
my girlfriend's daughter is going through that right now. She's so pretty. And she's got boys just bullying her and stuff. And it's because they're afraid of her. Instead of being nice and maybe getting shot down or something, they're just jerks.
Yeah. I've tried over the years. I've got all sorts of analogies related to dating and business. And, I used to use them a lot, in the early years. In fact, I'll tell you guys one funny story, just sort of imparting, how we track all the phone calls, record all the phone calls so that we can determine what marketing channels are actually generating leads versus, salespeople selling advertising. And we probably had 7 employees. We were just starting out, and we had a bottled water delivery company that we were working for on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. And they had this outside sales guy, and they wanted to track line on all of his brochures because he would go like out to offices and just pass out pamphlets. And they wanted to see, is that actually effective? And so one day the gal who would listen to the calls, back then, Erin, she's still with us, comes into my office and is like, I don't really know how to categorize this call. I just don't know what to do with this. And she plays it for me, and it's the sales guy's wife. And he's driving to appointments, and she is like, where the F are you? You need to come home. You need to hang your laundry. She just is like tearing him a new one. And he can't even get a word out for like 15, 20 minutes. So anyway, the call ends. I said, Aaron, just put it in other. I don't know what to call that either. Just put in other, maybe send it to the owner. He can address that. But I said to the team at the time, they were all young and single. I said, that saying life is short. Well, it's absolutely true. Unless you marry the wrong person. And then it is way, way, way too long. Because if you're that guy or that lady, like they both, you can just tell that's hell. So anyway,
So
it's
many people in that situation, right?
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
Anyway,
I
this
saw
was
that blog years
fantastic.
ago.
I really appreciate you guys taking the time, to do this. It's great meeting you virtually. Hopefully I can come out and visit soon before it gets there's like that perfect weather.
Yeah, I
Right
know.
now.
Right now.
Right now. Exactly.
Don't wait
Turning-
until even May.
I know.
We
I've
need
been
to
out
get
there.
out there though. We've been wanting to get out there and visit you guys. We had
Yeah.
a meeting set up, and then this
And
COVID.
then COVID.
So,
Yeah. If you're ever in Maryland, North Carolina, or anywhere in between, I'll be there.